Adam Taxin with Daniel Greenfield talking about his Monday, June 18th, 2012 column, The Progressive-Traditionalist War. Daniel's columns can be found, as you probably know by now, at sultankanish.blogspot.com. Daniel, welcome, and first of all, tell us what you mean by the Progressive-Traditionalist War.
Well, you can split up a society roughly into the progressives and the traditionalists. The progressives are associated with the left. These are the people who want to overturn the way things are, who are always big on forwardism, going forward, moving forward, leaving old past behind, and forcing everybody else to proceed in their way. So traditionalists are the people who often react to this, in reaction to enforced changes, in reaction to disruptions of their way of life, or just because they are fundamentally traditionalists, I believe, attempt to salvage things, attempt to push the other way. So there's a push-pull dynamic going on.
How does that relate to demographics, as you discuss in your column?
Demographics is at the core of this, because progressives traditionally have low birth rates. Very, very low birth rates. Generally, the more progressive your politics are, the lower your birth rate. On the other hand, it works in reverse with traditionalists, with the more traditionalist elements having the higher birth rates. So you have a basic clash with a group that wants to, with two groups, both of whom want to control society, one of which has a low birth rate, one of which has a high birth rate. So the group with the low birth rate has to find ways to counter its demographic disadvantage and neutralize the high birth rate of its traditionalists.
And this is an obvious teed-up question, but what does that mean in Europe? Who is that group with the high birth rate that is going to help the low birth rate progressives?
Well, in Europe, the progressives brought in Muslims who have a higher birth rate than native traditionalists. So effectively, they were bringing in alien traditionalists to counter their native traditionalists, and assuming that it would all work out.
And couldn't they do math to realize that that could not work for long, or do they just not care because they don't have too many children anyway?
They care mainly about staying in power, and if they have to destroy everything to stay in power, they're okay with that. But there's also a high level of bigotry at work there, so they're thinking as those people don't matter. And obviously people prioritize conflicts within their own group. They prioritize maintaining control over their own group, which to the left means maintaining control over Europe, and maintaining control over Europeans, even if they have to accept the no-go zones and the burqas and the Sharia laws in some parts of Europe.
So they'd rather have a Vichy France situation than the whole country. They'd settle for that, it sounds like.
Exactly.
And finally, how does this relate to the current news in the U.S. about a certain speech Barack Obama gave on Friday?
Well, this is also what has been happening in the United States. If you go back to Kennedy's immigration adjustment, the United States has been bringing in groups with high high fertility rates, and that have very little commitment to the United States, but that are guaranteed Democratic Party voters, which is the same thing that the Europeans have been doing, except here it's not just Islam, it's a variety of groups, where Islam isn't even the majority among those groups, but the effect is the same. There are no-go zones, economic decline, all sorts of violence and crime, and now you have Obama running through the DREAM Act, which is more of the same, stack the voter rolls. Who cares what happens to the economy?
The column is The Progressive-Traditionalist War. It can be found at sultankanish.blogspot.com. Daniel Greenfield, thanks as always for your time.